Hey everyone, today we're talking about working abroad. It is a general kind of conversation, and then we're going to talk specifically about maybe work culture. We'll also touch on entrepreneurship, and I think we'll have an entrepreneurship talk about working and having your own business abroad separately. But I want to talk about working abroad today. So, hey everyone, welcome to Flourish in the Foreign on Instagram. I'm your host, or the host, Christine Job, a Black American woman, currently based in Spain, living and laughing and loving, if you will, living a sumptuous life abroad, coming to you from her very extremely hot apartment here in the midst of the second heat wave here in Spain and all the forced breakdown. Today we're going to talk about, though, working abroad. I think it's a really important conversation, and I think there has been so much misinformation, maybe not misinformation, there have been a lot of very personal anecdotes spread around the internet and the world as if like that's the rule, and I'm going to say no. There's a lot of things to think about when you're deciding to work abroad. And I actually have so many episodes talking about working abroad. I have a whole compilation of how to get a job abroad, which they talk about that. And I've had several episodes of guests talking about their work culture that they've experienced abroad. I listened to Annabelle in Japan. She went to Japan to get her master's in architecture design, and now she's an architect in Japan. And her story of basically being hazed, it seemed like, in her firm. Well, not hazed. That's wrong. Bullied by, because it wasn't in the whole institution thing. Bullied by one person in her firm, and what that experience was like, but then also what her company did, which they were very responsive. So it wasn't a hazing, it was mostly someone bullying. But understanding that actually in Japanese work culture, corporate culture, not only is Japanese work culture fairly intense, but also there is a history and almost expectation of bullying from senior people to juniors. And I think in Annabelle's case, the guy wasn't even like senior. He had just been there for 6 months more. It was a very interesting story. We've also had people talking about their work experiences abroad, from how they were even able to relocate, right? So we had Kelly talk about how she got her job in social work and was able to do that in Italy and able to do that in the UK. And that whole process of being able to get up and move and that kind of package, we talked about that. I mean, we've talked about episode 2 with Deanna, talking about her and her family in Hong Kong. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's really great. But listening to how, she struggled to get her job, but then when she was in, some of the benefits and the perks, but also some of the things that were kind of, cultural not understandings. I don't know if misunderstandings, but if you listen to her episode or even go through the reels, you can actually get a snippet of her episode. She talks about how, in Hong Kong they speak Cantonese, and she understands Cantonese but isn't fluent, and how sometimes they would just stop speaking English and just speak in Cantonese to get things over her, and she would respond in English, and they're like, oh, you speak English, or you speak Cantonese, and she's like, oh, a little, just to let them know, I'm still in this. There's a lot of different things to consider when you are working abroad that I just feel like I feel like there's this conception, this conception of that I'm just gonna move abroad and it's gonna be like that show that I've never watched, because no, like that show Emily in Paris. You're gonna move abroad, it's just gonna be like all berets and baguettes, and it's gonna be really fabulous. When in fact it is working abroad. It's still work. It's still work abroad. And now you're contending with a work culture that you are not fluent in, right? I actually had Jessie, who is an amazing, amazing designer, artist, entrepreneur, on the show. And when she first moved to Paris, she was working at an ad agency, and she had to learn French super fast. I feel like she is one of my guests that learned the language the fastest, because I feel like she moved to France, did not speaking any French, and like landed a job in 6 months. And I was like, what? Girl, what? I had to go back and listen to that one, but I'm pretty sure it was like 6 months she was working in an ad agency. And I was like, where her colleagues spoke English, but like they were speaking in French, in like, you know, using, you know, terms of art or things like that. And she describes, you know, that experience to be a bit toxic. I think she also admitted that the ad world is a little bit toxic anyway, but like it was kind of toxic. Some of the things that were okay and allowed in that atmosphere would not have been okay in the United States. I think that's something to consider, right? I know that people want, you know, maybe you're not an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody. We're gonna get to that. It's not for everybody. I don't push it on everyone. But maybe you're like, okay, I want to work abroad. I want to work in my career field, because there's also this thing where everyone thinks they need to get a TOEFL, like the teaching English as a foreign language. And they're like, that's the ticket to all my dreams. And if y'all listen to this podcast, Flourish the Form, you know that we're not about, you know, packing up your backpack and moving abroad and living in a hammock, if that's not like your vibe. We're about moving abroad and living a life well lived. And usually my guess, it means there's the same lifestyle or better abroad. Yeah, we're not about that. We're about sustainability. We're not about escapism. We're not about romanticism. So unless you really want to teach English, it's not the only way you can go abroad. And depending on your lifestyle, your finances, things like that, it may not be sufficient enough for you to like live the life that you want to live. And that's okay. And I'm not poo-pooing TOEFL and all that stuff. I mean, I moved abroad, not on TOEFL, but I moved abroad as an auxiliar de conversación, which is a language assistant here in Spain for 9 months. I didn't have any training for TOEFL, so that might have been helpful. But it was a sabbatical for me. I knew personally that I was going to go back into my career, and that was important to me. And I wasn't defeated. I think that's something else. I wasn't defeated, and I wasn't like, oh, well, I can't, so I have to do this. I think a lot of people on the internet are defeated. They're like, I can't get a job abroad. It's just too hard. It's too complicated. And I think it's because y'all haven't listened to my podcast, because I've had so many, I've had an international talent acquisition specialist give you complete game as to how to actually get a job abroad. Like, she walks you through it. And then we recently had Kintia, who was a career coach, and that's all she does is place mid-level to senior level women in remote positions and work abroad, and not just any type. Her focus is really about helping these women to continue in their career field when they're burnt out, when they're discouraged, and they feel like, I can't do it anymore. She's a specialist in that. So I feel there's a lot of people who are defeated, and they give kind of bad information about, you can't possibly get a job abroad. Da, da, da. Is it a process? Yes. Does it require, paperwork? Yeah, but so does moving abroad. Don't get me started on people who just want to move abroad on tourist visas, because no, not gonna talk about that today. I'm not gonna get distracted, okay? Anyway, let me take a pause. Let me say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we are talking about working abroad. We're gonna talk about getting employment, work culture, expectations, processes, and then we're also gonna talk about working for yourself abroad a little bit. It's gonna be a whole array. If you tune into my IG lives lately, I say they're gonna be an hour long, and then I talk for like 2.5 hours, but y'all hang with me, so it's cool. If you're at work or if you're doing something, just prop me up on the kitchen counter and just listen to me, kind of like the podcast, just put me in the background. And let me know, of course, where are you tuning in from? Let me know where you're tuning in from, where you are and where you want to be, where you've been. all around the world and I. And you know, I think this is a really important topic because not only is it something that I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about, but I think it's a topic that is unnecessarily convoluted and muddied, right? If you actually take the Moving Abroad with Intention course, which is launching again in August, and I do have to say this as a plug, the course is great. Obviously, I'm biased. I have testimonials. It's proof in the pudding. Not only are the testimonials great, but it gives a lot of clarity, but it is your opportunity to work with me one-on-one. Those of you that have been hanging around for 2 years, we've been in this thing together. Wow. I used to do one-on-ones last year, and then I don't do that anymore. And the only really way for you to chat with me about your moving abroad plan, journey, bounce things off of me, get my unfiltered opinion, but always loving, is to join the Moving Abroad with Intention course. Now, I will say this. It is a 5-week course. It is live, so it has pre-recorded material, but I also tune in. We have a 1-hour discussion. Y'all see that I'm very long-winded, so it's actually usually longer than 1 hour because I'm a giving person. And we really talk about everything, every single thing. And then I also always end up giving people contacts and things like that because I just want you guys to win. I bring that up only because that the course is currently live, but it is not always going to be. Okay, so we're gonna have this cohort of Moving Abroad with Intention that kicks off in August. We may have another live cohort. I'm not making any promises again this year, but I will guarantee you in 2023, you're not gonna have that live aspect. It's still gonna be a great course. It's great, it's good. I mean, come on. But I'm saying to you, if you are on the fence and you're like, I need clarity, I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going, and that's okay. And if you're really looking for a bespoke game plan, because the homework that I give, you should do all the homework. And you should have a really substantial binder, which is what I recommend everyone to get, a game plan that's not only going to help you get abroad, but going to help you stay abroad. You're going to really understand everything that you need, not only from working and money management, but building community, but really understanding what type of lifestyle that you are looking for and allowing that to lead and guide your move abroad. Okay? That's a plug for Moving Abroad with Intention. So if you've been like, hey, I like that girl, Christine, that Flourish and Foreign girl, she's on to something. If you're wanting to talk to me, that's the only way to do so, okay? So join the course. And if you're not part of my newsletter, go to the Flourish and Foreign website right now. Join my newsletter because I am going to have a very special offer for everyone who signs up on the day that the course opens. Not the next day, not the last day, but the day that it opens. I got something super duper special, especially if you're like, I don't know about group courses, I'm not sure about self-study, I want to just talk to you. If that's you, then you're gonna want to join my email list. Because I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to give a very special deal to everyone who signs up the day the course drops. Not anybody else. Don't cry for me, Argentina, afterwards if you miss it. Okay? Anyway, let's get into working abroad, working culture, and things like that. If you have any questions for me, please put it in the question box or drop it in the comments and things like that. I'm gonna get to it and we can have this kind of conversation together. Okay? Actually, there's already stuff to see. Wendy, I miss you, Wendy. We have the best combos. Everyone, Wendy, we gotta talk. Okay, it's hard to work in France if you can't speak the language. Yes. Actually, that's probably where we should actually kick off the conversation. In Europe, they typically think Americans are too sensitive. Yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Let's kick off the conversation right there. It off. So when you think about I want to work abroad, which of course you're like, I'm not an entrepreneur, I want to stay in my career fields, I want to work abroad. My suggestion to you first and foremost, which is the same kind of suggestion I give to people when they say they want to live abroad, is to not actually pick a place that you vacationed or you think it's like super romantic and amazing. Oh, I want to move to Paris and work and da-da. No, it is to allow your deepest professional intentions and desires to guide where you go, and it may not be Paris. Why do I say that? Because too often people get frustrated because they're trying to fit their necessities inside this like romanticized dream. Okay? They take their necessities, the things that they actually need to be successful in their life, the things that actually makes them feel alive and well, the things that actually sustain them, not only like financially, but as spiritually, emotionally. They try to they put the cart before the horse. They're like, I love Belgium, I love Bangkok, or whatever. And they try to then fit their life into it. And they get frustrated and they're like, there's no jobs and I have to do this and that. And I'm here to tell you that if you are about cultivating a life well lived, and if you are about sustaining yourself abroad, which means anything, right? You can always go home. It's not about being abroad forever if that's not part of your plan, but it's about moving on your own terms, living on your own terms, returning on your own terms, just being able to move like you want to. You need to put your necessities first. That's just what it is. And your true necessities. How about that? Let me get clear, okay? Because I feel like I need Target. I don't need Target. I feel like, though, as I'm saying it to you, I'm like, I feel like I do need Target in Spain for so many reasons, but I don't need it. A true necessity for you professionally would be professional development. Perhaps that is what it is. Perhaps you need to be able to really exercise your knowledge, be able to sink your teeth into projects. Perhaps you really just need a place that's going to maybe mentor you. Perhaps you really need it to make dollars and cents. Perhaps you just don't need to be micromanaged. All these different types of things. You really need to make that assessment before you decide on a place and try to fit your life into a location. Because, like Wendy said, it's really hard in France to get a job. Even though they are recruiting for people in tech, like gangbusters. Like, I think they have a new visa. I actually don't think it's that new. Maybe it's like 2 years old. They have a whole new push to get people into France for tech. They're really trying to take advantage of Brexit. They're trying to take advantage of anything. They're really trying to create Silicon Valley in Europe, and everyone is basically. They're trying to create Silicon Valley somewhere else, and that's their thing, and that's what they're trying to do. And although there are positions that maybe, speaking English is a advantage, you're still gonna need to speak French. You're still gonna need to learn French, right? And if that's not part of your ministry, you gotta think about that, okay? And the tech jobs are probably going to be in like the major hubs in Paris or in France, which is probably mostly Paris. So if you're thinking like, I'm going to move to Saint-Tropez and maybe you could. Maybe you work remotely. Can you bet on that? Bet on finding a remote tech job in France is going to have like some kind of visa situation that you can move abroad. Don't speak French. Don't speak French and to be remote. Hey, I'm not the expert. You got to ask Kintia. You got to ask Barbara from episode 9 about that. I don't know, but it's something for you to think about, right? That's why your necessities need to go first, and then the location, okay? It's really, really important. Also, as Wendy said, Europeans think that Americans are so many different things. And as I've lived abroad and have worked, I was a teacher for a very short period of time, very loosely on teacher. I have been a freelancer. I have networked and just talked to people, and I have lots of friends who have their own businesses here in Spain or in Europe and things like that. Yeah, Americans are seen to be very sensitive and whiny, and they're kind of just like, why do y'all complain so much? Hey, Delia! How are you? Gosh, I want to chat with you soon. I love all my guests, everyone, okay? They're like one of my very favorite people on the internet, y'all. Adelia, Picky Girl Travels. If you're not following her on Instagram or on YouTube, you need to go ahead and do that. based in Mexico City, Mexico. She gives great advice. She actually was part of the compilation for Financial Wellness Abroad, which was an episode that did extremely well because y'all are smart people and women wanting to be financially savvy as you're abroad. That's a Dahlia right there. What was I saying? That's why it's important that we really focus on those necessities, okay? No, I was saying that. I was saying about sensitivity. There we go. Americans are deemed as being super sensitive. And it's so interesting. I think it's across, I don't want to say the entire world, but it's a very particular thing about Americans. I'm not even sure if it's necessarily sensitive. I think it is. I think it's also a mixture of sensitivity, entitlement, maybe even a lot of Americans are used to being micromanaged. Also, American culture is very, as a lot of my European friends say, fake. So we're very much like, oh my God, hey Jill, hey, and we don't really mean it. And people are like, don't talk to me in an octave higher and don't ask me questions that you don't care about. And I think that is important to think about because when you move to a different country, you already have to adjust. But a work culture, right? A place where you're not only trying to establish yourself as a professional, you're trying to obviously ingratiate yourself into the team. You need to be able to build those relationships. And if people look you up and down, they're like, look at this fake American. Like this obnoxious American who's just like sing-songy and does all this stuff. Like, it's gonna be hard and it's gonna be personal. And I'm not saying you need to change yourself, but that's something to think about. You have to consider the work culture. What is acceptable in a work culture? What is not? For example, in a lot of Italian society in general, but also in the work culture, things that we would definitely label as sexual harassment to this day in 2022 are like not. In Italy, they're like, what are you talking about? That's not sexual harassment. Even kind of unspoken rules of how women should dress in Italy, professionally, like that's a thing. Is it everyone everywhere? Of course not. But like that's a thing that you may have to contend with. Is that in alignment with who you are and what you're about, right? Those are some things to really consider. The first and foremost, again, work culture. It needs to make sense because it doesn't make sense for you to go from a situation that was lovely, perhaps, to a situation that was not lovely, or go from a situation that was not lovely, but now you've moved abroad and it's not lovely. And I guys tell you guys every week and every time I can, moving abroad is a hassle. It's a hassle. So you want to do it intentionally, like. I also say, like, once you do it once, you're like, I can move anywhere. Like, I was like, if I wanted to move to New Zealand, I could move to New Zealand. I'm pretty sure I could figure it out and I'd move to New Zealand. Would it still be a hassle? Yes. Do I have the confidence and I know kind of where to start and all those kinds of things? Yes, but it's still a hassle. I'm not moving to New Zealand just to be, like, on vibes. I'd move to New Zealand with intention and it would still be a hassle. So that's really important for you to consider. Okay, let's talk about after you have done a deep dive into your soul, in your professional life, and you're like, okay, I really do want to move abroad. I know it seems like this is a good work fit for me. Or actually, let's talk about this. How would you even figure out if a work culture is in alignment with who you are? How would you do that? I have some thoughts of how you would do that. I think how you would do that is, one, if you are a professional that has an international association, I would reach out to my colleagues and maybe sister branches in the country and the area that you are interested in. And I would inquire. Not only about positions and type of projects that they're working on to see if it's even alignment with my skills, but I also would want to know the tea. I'm like, what is it that y'all struggle with? What is going on? What are some of the policy changes that you are making? And a lot of these associations will have like policies, like if they have a blog, they're like, we stand against whatever, fill in the blank. And you could be like, oh, so that's a problem in your country, right? So like, we stand against sexual harassment in the workplace. And you're like, oh, okay, so this is happening rapidly. we stand against, discrimination of women and da da da. Like, okay, that gives you a hint of like what's going on. At least the stuff that they're willing to work on. You would then want to make relationships with people in that area, or find other resources, industry blogs and things like that. And I feel like every industry has like gossip blogs. I know that sounds weird, but like in the legal field, there's like gossip. There's a lot of legal gossip blogs, and they're exactly that. It's gossip on like on sometimes really interesting like celebrity cases, but sometimes like not, like just legal tea, like who's moving where to big firms and da da da, and what happened. Like, yeah, that's a thing. I would do that. I think that's important to think about, like, what am I getting myself into? And of course, building connections and contacts before you go. Now, the next thing I would do once I've like, okay, no, I'm gonna move to Vienna. No, I'm moving to Bogota. No, I'm definitely going to move to Kigali, perhaps. Like, I'm definitely gonna find a job in these cities or something. The next thing I would do, and I know people are not gonna wanna hear this, is I'm gonna invest in help. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to invest in help. I'm going to get a professional involved. I'm not gonna go onto Indeed and expect to find the exact job that I want with the exact same, the exact salary requirements and the benefits and the exact, place. I'm not gonna do that with Indeed. No, you know why? Because I want exactly what I want. How about that? I want to leverage other people's connections, jobs that aren't even posted. I want someone who's looking for exclusively me and my unique snowflake of a self. You know what I'm saying? That's me. Also, because if I've made a decision like that, I probably already start having some type of timeline. And if you are a busy person, God forbid you have a family, like, how are you making up the time to do all your life, do your current job, and try to find yourself a job in a different country that you don't even know what their recruiting rules and styles are? You don't have contacts in that industry, in the country? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna invest in that. This is something that Barbara talked about extensively in her episode. So if you have not listened to Barbara's episode 9, and it actually had a bonus episode that now I think is only available in the Patreon and the soon to be relaunched community with all my bonus episodes. But basically, she said to do this. Barbara said, learn how to do Boolean search strings. That's something you can do. Learn how to utilize Boolean search strings to reverse engineer and find recruiters that place in your industry, in your work title, in the place that you want to go. And once you have utilized that, you contact them. You say, hey, this is who I am. Can I send you my resume? How can we work together? Things like that. Do you have positions open? What have you? Get the tea, buy an hour of their time, understand what's going on, and recruit them to help you get a job because they get paid on placements. That's what I would do. I would not set up, Indeed alerts. If I was serious about it, and especially if I wanted to be paid what I want to be paid, and we can have a conversation about compensation packages, because depending on where you're moving in the world, maybe it's not going to be the dollars and cents that you want, but it might actually be an amazing deal depending on what the compensation package is. So, but if I was like, I am serious and I require this, that's a whole different kind of energy, and I would invest in that. And I would get a recruiter, I would get a headhunter, and you would probably get a job. Yes, because I actually haven't heard anyone that has a recruiter or a headhunter not get placed. But I've heard people on Facebook groups and all things, and they're like, I don't know, and it's so hard, and da da da. And I'm like, some things aren't DIY, y'all. Some things are, If y'all listen to the episode, you can DIY. But if y'all don't want to listen to the episode and y'all don't want to do that, you want to go ahead and reach out to people like Barbara, who's an international talent acquisition recruiter. Like, that's the one I would reach out to. She works primarily in the Middle East, and she does a lot of U.S. defense contracts. But that's someone who I would pay for her time, even if that wasn't the area, even that wasn't the industry I wanted to go into. I would pay her. And I would be like, can I pay for an hour of your time? And I can just pick your brain, and she could probably connect you with her colleagues in the region that you want, all this other stuff. You could actually get to where you want to go. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. And, or, Kintia, who was recently on the show, she's a career coach, and very different than I think what, coaching has such an interesting term. It's like it has different connotation, where you're just like, oh, everyone's a coach. No, Kintia has had 20 years in HR, and not only understands resume writing and cover letters and all these things across regions, but has in fact lived abroad herself in Dominican Republic and Taiwan. You want people who know not only what you're going to be experiencing, all aspects of it, and can coach you through. I firmly believe in investing. I just do. There's certain things that you should invest in if it's within your budget. And for me, if you're serious about working abroad, and especially if you're trying to land, something that has some kind of corporate relocation package, I don't know if those are going on Indeed. Personally, but I don't know, because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know these things. But I don't know if that's going on Indeed. And honestly, a lot of these corporate packages are not what they used to be. So if you have requirements, I would invest in a recruiter to get you the best job possible, to get you the best type of relocation package or the best compensation package. That would probably help you even with your visa process. That's me. But I'm also someone that's like, girl, can you do it for me? I am that person. I'm that person. I'm going to pause. If you have any questions about working abroad, put them in the comments or the question box. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We're going to be talking more about working abroad. We just talked about work culture. And we just talked about the need to invest in people who know what they're doing so that you get the job that you want. Not the one that you think you can get, not the one that people are like, it's so easy to do. No, the one that you want. If you want to stay in your career, the one that you want. And you can. We have a global economy. You can. It's just about knowing the people, knowing the procedures to get you where you want to go. And I think investing in people that know what they're doing is going to take a lot of guesswork, and it's going to eliminate a lot of frustration. And also, they can be real with you. They could be like, yeah, girl, maybe not this, but you know what? If you are willing to maybe move into this kind of role, maybe you move industries, but doing something similar, or you stay in the industry, but you kind of change up your role, you still have the experience, it can get you where you want to go. I think that's the beauty of working with experts. They can see the whole picture. They can help you make it happen. Okay? We are going to talk about having a business abroad, because that's my jam. That's what I like to talk about. But I want us to also talk about kind of a continuation on work culture. Talk about work schedule, because a lot of people think, I'm going to move abroad, move to Spain, I'm going to have a siesta. Yeah, you can have a siesta. Well, depending on where you live in Spain, you can have a siesta. But did you know that the typical Spanish work day is from about 8 to 7? Did you know that? I know. Let that sink in. You'll be like, wait, what? I'm like, yes, I did not stutter. It's 8 in the morning, sometimes 9, but usually 8 to 7 p.m. That's the usual work day. I know. You're like, that's not what I signed up for. Girl, neither did I. And I didn't live that life. So why is it like that? So in Spain, there's a couple of different things. It's a lot of things. I'll say this. There's a culture of work where people will be, it's not really about efficiency. People can fight me about that, but it's true. It's not really about efficiency. It's more about social. Spanish are very social. So it's very much about being seen to be working and like kind of hanging out is how that's what I have experienced as an outsider, being like, what's going on here? And also if I've talked to people, like that's kind of how it is. So like there's no incentive, I guess, for like being like, okay, I finished my work at 3, so I'm leaving, you know. Because, you know, like in parts of Germany, people have 4-day work weeks. They leave at 4. Like, they're like, we got our work done, I'm out. Not so in Spain. Even though they have been like, we're going to do a 4-day work week. And everybody's like, why? So there's less work happening? Like, this is a cultural thing. Like, it's just less work. It's less people being available to take your call. It's not going to be more productive. Like, okay, sure. Also, a thing is that because Spanish people are quite social, it's part of the culture, there are so many breaks throughout the day. So you may have breakfast in Spain, right? Desayuno at home. But at around like 10, you're going to have almuerzo, which is different because in Latin America, almuerzo is like lunch, but in Spain, it is morning snack. So people will like go to a bar and have like, you know, a tortilla, a Spanish tortilla, and you know, coffee, maybe talk, smoke with their colleagues, okay? Then you will have you have comida, which is lunch in Spain, but that's during siesta. So right, so you have that break at 10, and then you go home for siesta and comida at 2, and 2 till 4, 5. It's 5 right now. Like it's 7 o'clock in the evening right now. And if I open up my blind right here, I'm not sure if the optometrist, oh no, they're still closed. The optometrist over there is still closed from siesta. I don't know if they're gonna open up again. It is, you know, it's July, maybe they decide to take vacation, but like, that's pretty typical. So from, you know, 4 to 5 is siesta. And during it, right, people usually pick up their kids. Like kids will come home from school to have lunch. And, you know, I don't know if people are really taking naps. Now in the summertime, probably. But it's like family time, rest, you know, that kind of thing. And then they'll return back to work at like 4 or 5 and work until whenever, 7, 8. And I'm like, and that's like life. And then you'll see it like in the grocery stores. You know, like in the United States, like the grocery store rush is like 5 or 6. Spain, it is like 8 to 9. And you know, the grocery stores close at 9, 9:30. So it is like chaos. And there's nothing there because everybody knows, you know, in Europe, you gotta go do your grocery shopping in the mornings, okay? That's when all the good stuff is out. You gotta go to the bakery in the mornings. Like, this is the whole thing, okay? So it's like, if you go into a grocery store late at night, like, something went wrong in your day. And everybody knows, and everybody's in a bad mood. something went wrong. So that's that. So I bring that up because, you know, you hear about Spain, you're like, oh, siesta. And I'm like, is that work culture actually a fit for you, right? Also, I would say that Spanish work culture is not as merit-based in like performance, right? It's not. People are very accustomed to be like staying in a job. One, because of how it's set up. Like because of the 2007 recession, they started these new kind of work schemes. So you can have a permanent contract or you can have a temporary contract. And everybody's always working to have a permanent contract because a permanent contract means they can't fire you. If they fire you, you have like a severance package. And this is if you're a permanent, if you have a permanent contract, if you're a waiter, anything. Like if you have a permanent contract, you have a severance package, which is why people are like not trying to give them anymore, which also might be interesting for visa reasons, right? So people have this kind of, I don't know, if you have a permanent contract, you're like, you can't fire me. And if you don't have a permanent contract, you're like, you probably won't give me a permanent contract anyway, so I'll probably always have this temporary contract, so it doesn't matter. It's like that kind of vibe. So you have to think about like, is that what you want to work in? Now, pause. That's like Spanish companies, exclusively Spanish. Multinationals, I mean, they're always going to be influenced by the cities and the countries that they live in, but it is going to make different, for sure. It is going to probably be more international, or whomever runs the company, American, German, whatever, Swiss. Yeah, but it will still be influenced very much by obviously the local culture. That's what you think about, right? You probably didn't know that. Now you do. So when I say think about that work culture, think about what your expectations are, that's really important, because maybe you love Spain. Okay, buy a house here. Okay? Apparently, there's a lot of great options on the Costa Brava because the Russians aren't able to come to their houses. And the Brits have started to sell their houses. So apparently it's a great market. So if you love Spain, maybe you buy a vacation home here, but you work somewhere else. Okay? All right. The next thing I was going to say is, Delia says, sounds a lot like Mexico. Okay, like, because people be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work in Mexico. Also, let's talk about it, Delia. The cost of living, you like, oh, I love it. But then it's like, what? How much are you gonna get paid? You wanna work in Spain? Yes, it's on euros, but it's Spanish euros, which is very different than Scandinavian euros, or even German euros, or French euros. Meaning the salaries are not gonna be what you're looking for. I can just tell you that already. The average Spanish salary is about 1,200, maybe 1,400. Because I think they changed the minimum wage. I think it's about 1,200, 1,400 euros a month. Okay? To put that in context, my last apartment in Barcelona was 1,000 euros a month. The stipend that a lot of these, auxiliares de conversaciones, they come to Spain to work on, is 700 euros. That's their stipend a month. It's 1,000 euros in Madrid. Okay? So, yes, cost of living, but like, for who? You know what I'm saying? You're thinking, how's that possible? Well, because, Spanish people own a lot of property, and it's a very, it depends on who you know, and there's definitely Spanish prices and foreign prices. So anyway, there's a lot of that, and people stay in their apartments that they are renting for a long, long time, so their rent in the same building could be like 200 euro, and your rent could be like 1,000 euro because of how long they've lived there. It's a lot. Okay? So you want to also think about that. If you had an excellent relocation package, maybe it'll work. But if you have still U.S. bills and things like that, it may not make sense. I just want you guys to think about it holistically. It's not just being like, I work in Spain. Because it may not actually be what you want. You may just want to live and vacation in Spain or in Paris or in Mexico, and that's okay. That is okay. Okay, let me look at some of the comments here. Yes, Adelia, we need a chat. I always have the best conversations with Adelia. Let me just plug Adelia for 1 second. One, obviously I already said, Piggy Girl Travels. Follow her and follow her YouTube. She has excellent content. I think I told you guys last time I was being shady. I was telling everybody, not everybody who moves abroad should be a content creator. And that's true. But I also told you guys that the people that I collaborate with are always going to be people that you can definitely trust and listen to. And I stand on that. And Adelia is someone I've collaborated with, so. And we do need to chat, Adelia. Always have the best conversations. When he says, I had no idea how many basics I would have to relearn because we're different. That's the thing. Also, Wendy, shout out to Wendy, who's also in the comments. She was on the show too. I'm not gonna remember what episode it was, but it dropped in October of last year. And she talked about her working in London. And the way you described your home in London was so lovely. It was just it was really nice. But also she talks about becoming a digital nomad, living in Italy, also her Italian fiance. That was a really nice episode. So follow Wendy. She's amazing entrepreneur, and has been out here in these streets as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling y'all, I'm not generally a shady person, but I see some things on the internet and I'm like, no. But the people I have on my show, I'm just gonna be real. People I have on my show that I collaborate with, you can trust. Because I don't have everybody on my show. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. So now what's the next thing I want to talk about? We talked about that. We talked about compensation. I'll briefly talk again about compensation packages abroad and why you actually want to have someone in your corner to negotiate with you and to make you understand what you're really getting, right? Because I just told you the average compensation, or average salary here in Spain is like 1,200, 1,400 euros. And if you heard that, you're like, what? But it's an average, yo. So if you have specialized skills, maybe that's not what you're taking home, right? One of the richest, I don't know if he's the richest man in Europe, the founder of Zara, he lives here too. And somehow I don't know how that works. But anyway, he's from Galicia. Like, you could live a nice life and have a nice compensation package, which is why you want to work with a professional. You want to work with a Barbara. You want to work with Carla from episode, I want to say 5. Carla exclusively works with educators who want to go into international education, I think specifically higher education. She has worked in Bangladesh, Niger, Dominica, UAE, Singapore. I know I'm missing something. Okay, you're talking about Afghanistan. You're talking about, when I say invest in professionals, y'all, you're investing in not only people who have so much experience and who know what they're talking about and are gonna help you, but also have all these connections, especially if you want to go abroad. Y'all don't hear me though, but okay. So Carla would be someone who you would want to talk to if you want to go into international education and you were like, okay, I'm gonna move to fill in the blank, Qatar, Brazil. And she's gonna walk you through that type of compensation package to help you understand like what it really means and how you could, how you can negotiate better for yourself, right? That's really important for you to understand. That's why you want to work with a professional. I think most people. I will give you an example of someone who did not work with a professional and she took it to the best. She like slam dunked that opportunity. Like when I still think about it and I tell people, when I tell like other expats, they're like, that's unheard of. But I'm like, I know, because she's amazing. Of course, I'm talking about Itia from episode, I'm gonna guess, Itia in Australia. Go to flourishandforeign.com and look it up, y'all. Don't make me do this. I think it's episode 14. I'm gonna say that. Itia's story is so interesting. Okay, and it has just continuously developed into an amazing story about moving abroad with intention. So, Tia, she moved abroad in such a crazy way. Like the day that she left was like chaos. This lady worked a full day, had a farewell party, picked up her passport from the Vietnamese consulate, got her hair braided. She was like, yeah, I was doing too much. Literally, when I left, that was the only thing on the agenda, was leaving. Crazy. Anyway, she actually does like this round the world kind of trip, and she lands in Australia, and she's like, yep, I want to move here, I want to live here. She thinks that she's able to sponsor herself first as an entrepreneur, or second as a highly skilled professional. She was a project manager, product management and construction in the United States, in San Francisco, and I think also on the East Coast. So she had a lot of experience. The Australian government had changed their law around I think highly skilled professionals, or maybe the entrepreneurship professionals. And aside, a lot of other countries implement their laws way faster than the United States, which was really hard for me to like understand. I'd be like, but y'all was just talking about it last week, and like now it's law. You're like, wait, what? A lot of countries implement laws way faster, and I'm not used to it. I don't know if I'll ever get used to it. I'd be like, so now we don't have like a runway period. Like, no, it's the law. The law has changed. And you're like, okay. So that kind of happened to Itia. The law had changed, and she wasn't going to be able to sponsor herself, so she had to really figure it out. And eventually she was like, I'm going to have to go back into my career for at least a little bit before I can pursue like my entrepreneurial dreams. And so that's what she did. In Australia, she looked up recruiters, she got in contact with them, she looked at their listings. I think how she worked hers is she was like doing it from different angles, but then she found a listing, she called the recruiter and she's like, I want to be considered. The recruiter was like, I don't know, because da-da-da-da. And she was like, let me explain to you, like, this is another thing a recruiter will explain to you. Like, sometimes your credentials don't match up exactly, or what they're asking for, or it's in different language or different types of ways they express it in Australia than, you know, American English. That you want someone to advocate for yourself, or you need to advocate for yourself and be like, no, let me explain to you, I know exactly what's going on, like and IT is a woman that was like, no fam, I know exactly what I'm saying, like I know I can have this job. She actually had to like really assert herself, which I don't know a lot of people who'd be like, I'm in a foreign country, I only got so much time before I gotta go back, I gotta make this work, or I gotta go back home, and I'm going to like I'll be aggressive with the recruiter, right? But she was, and it paid off. You know, she got advanced into some positions. She did the interviews. She had to advocate for herself and be like, no, guys, I understand what's going on, this, and this. And then at the very end, you know, looking at the compensation package, the recruiter was like, look, this is the best I can do. And she was like, I have to have residency. I have to have a pathway to permanent residency. And they were like, it's impossible. And she was like, thanks for taking me this far, but I'm gonna negotiate it. And she did. She negotiated this amazing package where she ended up, you know, working for them. She got permanent residency. She now is an Australian citizen, and she just built a house. I saw this on Facebook today. She's built a house that she's like renting out as an investment property. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be like that. And if you're confused, or if you're like, what, girl? Listen to her episode. But also, IT and I did a YouTube live together where we really talked about how do you make that kind of career transition. If you're like, girl, I hear what you're saying about investing in people, but I think I can do it, or I don't got the coin, you're gonna want to listen to that episode. You're gonna want to listen to it 100%. If you like, trust me, I give away a lot of good stuff. A lot of my resources, the podcast, it's not fluff, y'all. It's an hour. I know it's an hour. I talk a lot. I like to listen to a lot. But if you listen to it, it's giving you the kind of information that's just not being pushed around sometimes in these Facebook groups. I always come for the Facebook groups because like I always scroll past them and somebody's always saying something crazy. Or people are like being not nice. And I'm like, this is why people don't be commenting. Like, why are y'all so... They're like not nice and they never been nowhere. Anyway, that's a good... Never mind. Anyway, there's that. So you want to go abroad, invest. If you are gung-ho on DIY, watch that video. But I think also being mindful that Australia, I mean, they speak English, okay? She was a highly skilled professional. So you got to make sure like you hit that mark. And you got to be pretty assertive. Like, you got to be really assertive. And if that's not your strong suit, if you don't feel like you can, you know, I won't say get bugged, but like if you don't feel like you can flex on somebody in a different country and be like, no, I need this, and this, that's why you get a recruiter. That's why you get a headhunter, okay? That's why you get somebody to explain the compensation package. That's how you get people to negotiate a compensation package that's actually best for you, okay? That's what I'm saying. Now I'm going to switch gears. If there's no questions, I'm going to talk about having a business abroad because, you know, that's my thing. I love it. Hey, Kimberly P, you say, rewind, I just got here. So this conversation is all about working abroad. It's an umbrella conversation because honestly, everything I've talked about, which is work culture, so important. That's the very first thing I talked about. Why? Because look, everybody want to go abroad and eat baguettes and croissants. But like working in France is actually a whole thing, especially in Paris. Like that has a whole reputation. And if you're like, really? Yes, it has a whole reputation of what that means. it's important that you allow your professional needs and desires and your lifestyle needs and desires to lead not only your country, but also like the type of work you do abroad. As I said before, you do not want to take your necessities of life and try to shoehorn them into your dream location. Like, look, you may have studied abroad there, and maybe you had an amazing vacation. Just visit. You know what I mean? Like, you may not want to work there. I talked about work schedule, like here in Spain, and how, you know, you may want to work in Spain until you realize they work from 8 to 7. Though I will say this, Spanish people, when it's time to stop working, they're out. There's not a Spanish store or any place that they're like, oh, it's 2 minutes to 7, or it's whatever, or even 10 minutes. Don't let it be 50. Look, I've seen people close 30 minutes before because they're like, oh, nobody's here, close it. They're not waiting for you. They're not keeping the store open. They're actually being like, get the hell out. Literally, they're like, no. So there's that. They do have strong boundaries there. But you have to think about that. You have to think about compensation. You have to think about all the things that you really require and desire, and let that lead the location. It's something I talk about in Moving Abroad with Intention course, which, hey, if you're looking for a course that's not only going to set you up to go abroad, but stay abroad, y'all, you know, because, okay, to be sustainable, come on and join me with the Moving Abroad with Intention course. It launches, the next cohort is in August. It is a live course for now, which means there is 5 weeks of live discussion every week with me. So you can do your homework and then talk to me about your hopes and dreams and pick my brain and stuff like that with everybody else. And if you've been following, I don't do one-on-ones. So if you want to chat with me about your hopes and dreams abroad, or you want my opinion, that's the way to get at me. And this course is not going to be live forever. It's definitely not going to be live, meaning I'm not going to be coming in to chat with you guys probably in 2023. It's just going to be, a very excellent, might I add, a recorded course that's going to be great because you'll be able to do it at your own pace. But if you're looking for, that feel, you want to not touch, but you want to talk to somebody, this is the time to do it, right? If you've been thinking, if you've been on the fence, and even if you are 3 months, from leaving, or 3 years from leaving, I just feel like this course is excellent, but it also will help you. And I have testimonials to also back me up. It's not just me talking about my own baby, okay? So that's what we're talking about. And also during the course, we talk about money management abroad. We talk about getting a job abroad. We talk about building community and all the things that you need to go abroad confidently, but to stay abroad. And what? Cultivate a life well lived. Y'all know it. Y'all know what the vibes are. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm gonna talk about having your own business abroad. Oh yeah, a little bit, because I could talk about this all day. Having your own business abroad. Well, let me tell you something. I have had different types of work experiences abroad. I don't know if y'all know this about me. I came abroad and I was a teacher's assistant. That was my sabbatical. I was living in La Rioja, and I taught children from 3 years old to 12 years old. And that was a very special time in my life. But I also knew, this is not my life. I'm not doing this for another year. It actually used to be a thing where people would come to Spain and they would do that program for ever. They would do it for 5 years. So I think some people even did it for 10 years. And that was their thing. They're they moved around because you can move around in the program, and they fell in love abroad. Maybe they fell in love with the country, or maybe they fell in love with somebody. That was their job. That's how they were sustaining themselves. That's how they have their visa and their money and everything like that. However, the policy has changed, and now they're just kicking people out, actually very crazily. That's tea for another day. But basically, a lot of people who thought they had jobs for next year are now, and next year meaning like September, August, or September, October, are now in July realizing they don't have a job and they're having to scramble. I just say that because kind of similar to how people were teaching English with the Chinese companies, and the Chinese companies like changed overnight and now nobody can have that kind of job. Like that's kind of the downside of, I don't want to say working abroad, but that is an aspect, right? You can get fired and your visa is tied to your employment. You gotta leave. That's the same in the United States. If somebody comes to the United States to work and they get terminated, you got a certain amount of days, you gotta leave. And, you know, that's hard, right? Like a lot of people had to leave their jobs, maybe got terminated during the pandemic, and now you gotta travel in the midst of a pandemic with pandemic prices and all that. That was like a lot of stuff, right? I would say that's like a downside to working abroad. It's not always as dependable as you may think it is, right? Sometimes it can be just a change in politics. You know, someone else comes into power, they're anti-immigration. I love this because white people in these expat groups don't think they're immigrants, and then like there's like anti-immigration sentiment in whatever country, and they're like swept up and like, oh, I thought they were just talking about the brown people. And they're like, we're talking about you too, Jim. Anyway, so when I first worked, I did that, and then I decided, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, what am I gonna do? Because I was quite burnt out because I had my own consultancy in Atlanta. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back and did that. But I always was networking, and this is something that I always recommend people to do. When I decided I was going to move to Spain, I started networking. And I know that people hate the term networking, but I think it's only because y'all don't know that it's just relationship building. It's making friends, like acquaintances. That's all it is. It's professional acquaintances. I started doing that before I even moved to Spain. I've said this several times across different platforms, but actually before I even was an auxiliar, like before I moved to La Rioja to be an auxiliar, I landed in Barcelona like the first month or two I was in Spain, and I got contact with one of my Facebook friends, and she was like, hey, when are you coming to Spain? Because I think my friend needs help. And I was like, oh, help with what? Like, well, you do IP law, right? I actually studied IP law in law school, but I'm not a practicing attorney. And I was like, girl, I won't practice. She's like, yeah, but I think like maybe you could help them. And so, y'all, before I even taught a little 3-year-old or 12-year-old or anything like that, I had an interview with a IP, like a boutique IP law firm in Madrid. Okay, networking. Someone put there. Finish that. So if you want to work abroad, networking. So anyway, fast forward. I didn't want to work and be a teacher anymore, and so I was networking throughout the entire process. My landlord at the time was a lawyer, so I was like, oh, I want to talk to you, and he took me to his law firm and introduced me to people, and then I had like a gestor, which is how do I explain it? Kind of like an accountant, business manager in my building, and I went and I like left notes. I went and talked to them and left notes of being like, hey, if you need someone with my expertise, I don't know how I could help you, but like, can we talk and things like that? Like, I was always networking. So much so that, you know, even with my friends, I always let them know what I truly did. And so my friend who actually already had a remote gig from the States needed help at her job. And I got a job as a freelance writer first. And then they brought me on full-time as doing strategy and sales for the company. Fully remote. I didn't audition. I didn't interview it. I interviewed it, you know, abroad. I was always abroad. The company's based in DC. I did that whole thing. And I thought that this was like a cool gig. Like it was, you know, steady money. Don't have to worry about things, you know, because as an entrepreneur, you have to develop your systems to have steady income. Like you are it, you gotta make it happen. I was like, yeah, this is what I want. And then I could be a digital nomad of my dreams that I always wanted. fast forward to October 2019, I actually go and live this digital nomad life. I go to Southeast Asia. My mom was in Southeast Asia at the time, went and joined her. Went to Malaysia and Thailand and Singapore and Bali and probably somewhere else. And then went to Colombia and Panama. And that experience let me know that I hate being a digital nomad, personally. Like, I don't like bouncing around and things like that. So I had that experience and was like, I gotta go back and work for myself, which is what I did, and relaunched my business in 2020, which you would think was a horrible time to relaunch a business. But actually, it's been very nice for me. I have my own business. It's a business strategy consultancy. I'm the principal and only member of my consultancy. I work primarily with Black women, women of color, who are prominent in their industry, very much thought leaders, very much experts. These are women who have books coming out. These are women who are going to be on TV next month. That's my jam. I do product development. I do organizational strategy. That's what I do. I do business development. I get them to the bag. That's what I do, right? So how do I do that abroad? Well, a couple things. I have the type of visa that allows me to do that. I have a visa that allows me to work here in Spain. Like, I have a work visa that I've never used here in Spain. Also, the biggest thing though that allows me to do that is that I understand my work. And I want to bring this home, because a lot of people will be like, oh, you could just be a VA or da-da-da. And that's no shade of VAs, right? I've actually been interviewing so many VAs this week. The thing is that you need to be able, in any business, regardless of where you are around the world, you need to actually understand what value you bring. I see a lot of people who say they want to start a business and they're just like, it's like word vomit. They're like, I'm a VA vibes. And it's like, that's not gonna get you a client. It's not gonna get you a client. It's not gonna get you a premium, it's not gonna be able to position yourself in a premium kind of space. It's not going to create sustainable income or great word of mouth recs, which is what I'm really blessed with. A lot of word of mouth, personal recommendations, which is excellent because I always get excellent clients. So that's amazing. That's not going to help you. So yes, there's a lot of people who are like, you can start any business abroad. I think so. I mean, as long as it fits into local regulations. But if you want to make the type of money you want to make, if you want to live the type of lifestyle you want to live, you're going to need to niche, which is the biggest thing I tell people. You're going to pick a niche. You're going to have to really understand your value and your transformational power. That's how, in my opinion, you build a business abroad. That's what I tell my clients. That's what I tell the members that are in my Build a Business Abroad cohort too. It's not vibes. It's not vibes. Okay. What is a VA or an IP? So a VA is a virtual assistant. That's what it stands for. So an assistant that can help you, and that's the thing. It's a broad term. It can mean so many different things. So that's why I don't disparage the name, because there's a lot of people who know their stuff, but they also know how to market themselves, and they know to a VA who is a payroll specialist in this type of industry. There's all these different types of things that you can be as a VA. So that's what a VA is. An IP, IP stands for intellectual property. So I studied intellectual property in law school, so that'd be your copyright, your trademark, patents, and things like that. So that's what I was talking about there. Sorry about that. Just talking in acronyms. Anyway, that is the biggest thing. So if you're like, I want to go abroad and I'm going to start my business. Okay, I want you to start a business if, first, you don't want to actually be employed. If you're looking to start a business because you feel like you can't be employed abroad, that's not the reason why you start a business. It's not. It's not. Not in this day and age when there's actually so many ways to be employed abroad. No. because having your own business is a whole other energy, and especially if you're just starting out, is a whole kind of energy you have to have around it. Even though I'm a huge component of wellness, and I teach that at every level of my business. I teach wellness, to infuse your business with wellness. You also have to understand that entrepreneurship is a pathway to self-actualization. What do I mean? By bringing something from your mind into the physical realm, putting it out there for public consumption, you are going to become more and more yourself. You are going to shed. And through that shedding, you're going to expose your insecurities you knew you had, insecurities you didn't know you had. You're going to have to up level. You're going to have to be honest, real honest about yourself, about your abilities, the things that you're good at, things that you're not good at. Like, there's a lot of things that being an entrepreneur, like, strips you raw to. So you got to really know, like, that's your jam, right? That you need to have a purpose, a reason why. And I think, honestly, these are things to think about, even if you have like a side hustle, right? If you're thinking about just having something on the side, you still need to understand that you're going to need to put yourself out there. There's going to be an amount of work to be done, and you need to be able to niche yourself 100%. Because you'll find yourself putting in a lot of work and you're not going to get a return on your investment, which is sad to me, because I don't ever think people fail in business because they didn't work hard enough. I think it's because they didn't know what they were doing. They focused on the wrong things, like logos. I'm like, girl, you do not need a logo. For what? Nobody even knows you do what you do. Like, nah, girl. You need to, there's a lot of other things you need to work on. Like, before you invest in a logo or professional photos, like, that money, if you even have it to spend and invest in your business, needs to go into places that you're actually going to see a return on investment soon. It's going to help you get to the dollar, get to the bag. That is really important. Now, some key differences about working abroad that I think are interesting, which you can actually find, I don't know if it's on the new website. It will be on the new website. I've written about some key considerations about developing a business abroad. You should definitely check it out on the Flourish Foreign website. It was originally published on the Black Expat website as well. One of the things to think about, though, is obviously target market. Who are you marketing to? That's going to be really important. Is it a local audience? Is it an audience outside of you, right? For example, my audience or my clients, I'll say like my business strategy clients, have actually lived all around the world. My clients tend to be international in some capacity, expats, repats, or just travelers. So there's that. But a lot of them are based, or I would say the majority of them have been based in the US. And that's important, right? If I'm going to be marketing to them, they're not going to be here in Spain. I've never had any clients actually here in Spain. Why is that important? Well, one, it's 7:30 and I'm coming to you and I went live at noon your time, right? I'm going to cater my marketing efforts to when the people who may be interested in my business will be awake. Not when it's noon my time, because that's 6 a.m. Even though maybe I'll want like a wake up live. I don't know, I'd be willing to do that. Right? That's something to think about. Also, it's important to think about currency. Right now, the currency, the euro and the dollar are I think they're still at parity right now, which is really interesting. There's been a lot of excitement from friends in the US, but also like people here about that. And that's important to think about, right? So if we're not at parity and I have all my bills are in euros, or that's not true. I have bills, I have a business budget, it's USD, I have personal US budget, I have a Spanish budget, I have all these different things to consider. So when I think about how much money I need to make, what my revenue has to be, all these types of things, I have to keep that in mind. So I have to think about, is it better for me to charge in euro? Is it better for me to charge in euro, or is it better for me to charge in USD, and why? If I charge in euro or if I charge in USD, will I be able to make up the difference when we have currency exchange to pay my bills in euros when like I need to pay them, right? There's a lot of things to think about like that. Also, it's important to think about, obviously tax implications, registration implications, just ability to do business. My business is online. It is a completely online business. That's what it is. I don't see anybody in real life. Like at all, except for like that's not part of my business though. I do have like a women's entrepreneurship group that we get together and we talk, which is really cool because they're all like women from around the world. We all have businesses and we talk about having business and living our life. That's something to think about. So I have to live in a place that has excellent internet, because if not, how am I gonna work? How am I gonna make my money, right? These are things to think about. But also, I would say the biggest thing that people don't consider, and I would say this is an issue with women entrepreneurs, maybe women of color, Black women entrepreneurs, is not only to think about the why you're starting your business, but also to think about, when are you going to exit your business? Like, what's the purpose of your business? Is this business an investment vehicle for you to invest in your retirement, for you to be able to do other things? Is this a legacy business? Are you looking to sell this business? Or are you just going to wind down? That's important to think about, because how you start that business, I won't say start, because sometimes you start, you kind of stumble, you're like, okay, all right, I'm onto something, I'll figure it out. But like a lot of once you have proof of concept, you need to actually have a goal in mind. And the goal or the assumption of I'm just gonna work forever, I mean, you may love it, but that may not actually be in alignment with your lifestyle, especially the lifestyle you want to have abroad, with your life goals. Maybe you want to have children, or I don't know, if you're like me, every year my goal is to not work. And I work and do things, so I'm like, oh, so I don't have to work next year. And that means, it means something different to me. It's it's a certain amount of automation, there's a certain amount of revenue coming in, that I feel like it's I don't really have to work or exert myself as much. That's really important when you're thinking about building a business abroad. And I think that gets missed by a lot of people who talk about building businesses, but I think it's because they're not strategists. That's what I think. I don't think, I come at it from a different angle, because I have a business degree, I have a law degree, I worked in an international startup, and I worked internationally. So I have a different point of view than perhaps Susie May on the internet, who's trying to sell you whatever. And I'm not saying Susie May doesn't have maybe some fundamentals perhaps, but it does become there's nuances to it, for sure. There's definitely nuances, and I think also it's dependent on how what your timeline is on, a return on your investment, your initial investment, but also it's going to be about when you want to be profitable. And I think that a lot of people spin their wheels when they could be profitable way sooner, way sooner. And part of being profitable, or at least maybe not profitable, but at least bringing in some revenue, that's an important part of testing your concept. I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna stop. You don't have a business unless you make money. Okay? You may spend money and you may create stuff in Canva or whatever, but if you don't have a business unless you make money. And you don't know if your business is viable unless it makes money, and it makes enough money, or it doesn't make enough money. So that's really important to think about as well. It's a concept. It's something I talk about all the time with my clients. I'm like, okay, we got to test it sooner rather than later, because why we want to invest in stuff that is not going to make us money? You know what I mean? Especially in a lot of these businesses that don't require a large lead up time. You're not manufacturing something. Okay, we can test this out today. Really passionate about this subject. If you have any questions about building business abroad, I'm going to stay on for maybe 15 more minutes and talk about it. I'm really passionate about it. I have my Build a Business Abroad group coaching program that I am launching for the final time this year. Not forever, but the final cohort this year is going to be launched in August as well. It's going to be very busy in August. And that cohort, let me just be honest, my coaching program is different. It has community pre-recorded information. It's going to be in there, but also I'm very hands-on with my cohort participants. It's very important to me that people not only get good information but act on it. So my thing, especially when it comes to building a business, because I'm very particular, that's not for everybody. And I know you won't hear people be like, everyone's like, yeah, take my course. Like, no, actually don't. My group coaching for building a business abroad, either you're abroad or you want to go abroad, is only for people that are going to act. Okay? My bread and butter, actually what I used to really be known for, and it was like probably like version 1 of Build a Business Abroad, was my 12-week launches, because I do this. Okay? Like, I'm just letting you know, I do this. So my biggest thing is to test, iterate, get out there in the market. And I think that is something that you have to consider if you're trying to build a business abroad. The reason why, how does this go into going abroad? A lot of people want to have a business that can financially support them abroad, which I love and I agree with, sure. But you have to have something tested. You need to understand what it is and know what the hell you're doing, especially if you don't have a long financial runway, right? That's a lot of pressure to be abroad and be like, I gotta get this thing to work next month to pay my bills. Like, that's a lot. So I'm very big on testing and iteration. That's why I tell everyone it's not for everybody. It's not, if you're just thinking, you're just gonna I'm just gonna soak it in and then I'm gonna think about it, and for like next year maybe, it's like, that's not really for you. For me, I'm really passionate about Black women and women of color leveraging their skills and their experiences and creating assets, and assets in the form of a business, something that is their own, something that they can sell, something that they can license, or whatever they want to do. Like, that's my jam. It's from the women that I work with at my top tier, my business strategy clients, to Build a Business Abroad. That's my specialty. That's my vision. That's my business strategy philosophy, is we build assets. And a lot of people don't think about it like that. They think about, oh, this is something I'm going to do, and then it's going to pay the bills, or da-da-da. And I'm like, I want you to build assets, because I know that you're brilliant, and I know you've been systemically undervalued and undermined. And look, I'm trying, everyone's like, Black Girl Magic. I'm like, it's about investing in yourself. It's about betting on yourself. You are so confident and so on it, and people try to talk to you crazy, and you will put up with it because you're like, it's a standard check. But if you don't want that and you want to have your own business, then you got to step out and build that for you and build your own assets. Yeah, I can talk about that all day. I'm going to pause. This has been a really good conversation. As a recap, we've been talking about working abroad. We first talked about work culture. Getting a job abroad. We talked about how if you want to get a job abroad, which I never poo-poo. I think not everybody's an entrepreneur. That's fine. And I provided a lot of great resources for y'all. Like, don't play yourself. Don't be like, I don't know how to get a job abroad. It's so hard. I better not see none of y'all in these Facebook groups if you listen to this podcast, because there's so much free information and free game that doesn't make no sense. And y'all have all these people that you could reach out to and employ, or buy an hour of their time that would help you. Okay? Quick recap. We got Carla from episode 5, if you want to go into international higher education. We have Barbara from episode 9, who's an international talent acquisition recruiter, who specializes in the Middle East, and particularly government contracts, I think specifically defense contracts, but is a wealth of information and knows everything and everyone. To most recently, Kantia, who is a career coach who has been in the game for 20 years, who not only can actually get you found through LinkedIn, which I learned, LinkedIn is a whole art, y'all. It is not just putting, I don't know, some stuff on LinkedIn, like how I do it. I'm just like, okay, that's great. Like, no, it's actually a really powerful search engine for recruiters, but you have to optimize your LinkedIn page. And she can do it for you and optimize your resume. And a lot of people are like, I can do it. I don't need to pay for this. And I'm like, do you have a job abroad? Do you have a job abroad in the country that you want, with the type of visa that you wanted, the type of compensation package you wanted? Because if no, you go ahead and invest in people, okay? We talked about all those stuff. We talked about definitely work culture, what to expect. We also talked about how Americans are perceived abroad. That was funny. And now we have talked about building a business abroad. And I gave you guys a rundown of all the things I've done abroad and how I kind of build my own business abroad here. And now we've talked about my Build a Business Abroad group coaching, which I'm really excited to bring because it is very much a passion project. Who can help with LinkedIn? Kentia. Kentia Macklemore. You can go to, she's like the last episode that was uploaded. So season 2, episode 3, Kentia. All her information, contact information is in the show notes, either in the description, or if you go to the website and you see her face on the website, click on it and it'll have her contact information right there. These are investments, y'all. And I think the thing is that, one, the US, that's another conversation. I'm not gonna have that. But like, I'm a big believer in life and living a life well lived. Of course, yeah, whatever you need. But I'm a big believer in living a life well lived. And like, if you have it, obviously I don't want nobody to go hungry. But like, if you have it, I want us to unburden ourselves for thinking that we have to do everything for ourselves. We have to do it. I have to do it. This DIY, especially as Black women, I want us to stop doing that. Okay, I had a whole conversation, I think a couple weeks ago, talking about living abroad and soft life and how it's not an aesthetic, it's a way of life. And part of it is asking for help. And part of it is saying I'm worthy for specialized, qualified help to get me to where I want to go. Like, I don't have to struggle and strife it all my own. There's people who are like, girl, I got you. And who could actually get you things that you would never even dream of. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you gotta pay for it, because we pay women around here. We pay women around here, okay? We don't negotiate people's rates, and we don't say something crazy like, it's so expensive for it, oh, this LinkedIn thing is so expensive. I'm like, look, this woman has over 20 years of experience. You better go to Fiverr and see how that works for you, okay? Go to Fiverr. I'm talking about results. I'm talking about getting what you actually want. I'm talking about actually moving abroad with a job, with a visa, maybe a relocation package, depending on what you do, where you go, having people come to your house and pack up all your stuff for you. Like Juanita in I don't know what episode, it was in October. I love Juanita, she's so funny. Juanita of International Expats, Ingram's International Expats. She has a whole TV show. She talks about their corporate move and how crazy that was. I mean, it went wrong, but also sounded so delicious. Having somebody else like pack up your stuff, pick you up from the airport, and put you in temporary accommodation, then show you around to all the different houses. Yeah, like house hunters. Yeah, right. So my thing is like, if you have a very specific intention for your career, for your lifestyle, I would highly encourage to invest in your dreams, because you can say, no, I'm gonna keep on watching YouTube videos. And look, everybody I feature on my podcast who has a YouTube video is a quality person, and there's so many people who have excellent. I mean, Adelia, Valerie, who else? Paige. Who else has a YouTube video? Like, everybody has a YouTube video, right? Like, there's so many people who have excellent quality content. So, okay, you can get as much quality content inspo, but at some point, you gotta move. You gotta bet on yourself. And it's scary. Of course it is. Look, I didn't know anybody that lived abroad. Like, my mom worked abroad in the Air Force. I didn't have anyone who was like, oh yeah. When I wanted to first move abroad, this was when I was 22. When I was 17 and when I was 22. Right? So this was a long time ago. It was like 12 years ago, and then more. There wasn't podcasts. There wasn't YouTube videos about people moving abroad, let alone Black women. There was a lot of our stories out here. So the feeling of being lost and overwhelmed and unsure, and especially being like, nobody in my family ever do it. No one understands me. I just don't know. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to fail. I don't want to get scammed. All these things are completely normal. But I'm going to tell you, and you don't got to believe me because you don't know me. But my intention with Flourish is always to elevate Black women. Anybody else who listens to it, and a lot of people listen to it who are not Black women, can get elevated. I'm like, there you go. Get some of that shine. To elevate these stories, to show you that not only can you do it, but also how living abroad can be a pathway to wellness. As I always say, getting off the plane is not the step. It's living abroad, create the space for you to cultivate your wellness. But it's a cultivation. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to invest in the life that you want, because I'm assuming if you're on this page, you listen to this IG Live, you listen to the Flourish podcast, you're not really trying to escape something. You're trying to give yourself the space to be the woman, the person that you always have been, to give yourself the rest that you've been needing, to give yourself the space to just think thoughts you never thought before, to give yourself the space to be expressed in a way you've never expressed before. And I think that's worthy of investing in, personally. That's what I think. I think you need to invest in yourself, invest in your dreams. There are too many times we are investing in things and we don't even think of it as investing. We just think like, well, I just have to do it. I just have to do it. And it's like, no. Look, sometimes, now I'm going to say it, sometimes we are the weapons formed against us. Sometimes we invest in the weapons that are formed against us. Okay, and then we find it hard to invest in ourselves, and it's hard for us to invest in our dreams because we're in survival mode, and we also feel like this is not a sure thing, but the suffering is a sure thing. The dissatisfaction is a sure thing. And I'm telling you this, I live a life here in Spain that I would never have lived in Atlanta. Okay. Never. Do I still adult? Yes. I got dishes in my sink right now that I'm like thinking about as I'm talking to you. I'm like, I gotta wash those dishes. And I have a dishwasher too. That's another conversation. But I live a sumptuous life. How do I describe a sumptuous life for me? Look, I have a life and a lifestyle where my wellness, especially this year, I've told you guys this before, the podcast hasn't been that consistent. And I've told y'all, I put my wellness first. And that's what's gonna be. But I live a life where I can put my wellness first. And this is not Instagram memes and posts and things like that. Though y'all know I like it. I put in the stories. But I'm living it. Like I sleep. I have days off. In March, felt like I took off all of March. And I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do this. Now that is from living abroad and also preparing myself and having a business and things like that. But I'm able to do things and take care of myself in a way that I would not have been. It's not only a financial thing, but it's mostly like a societal thing. People want me to be well. People want me to take care of myself. Yeah. And I'm in an environment that allows me to dictate the pace of my life. What is the price tag on that? I don't know. Look, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever who's here, I want y'all to get free. I want you to get free. And I'm not going to talk to y'all like maybe some other people on the internet are going to talk to you. And they're like, living abroad is just inspo and it's all great. Like, living abroad is living abroad. You still got to deal with the whole government and politicians. They don't do IG Live about that. Like, there's still that. They're still adulting. Y'all love the dating abroad, so adventures and dating abroad. Maybe I'll hit up Tadre. We'll have to do another one. Hilarious. Like there's your parents get sick, something happens. Life still happens. It's not a utopia. It's not a utopia anywhere. But if this is on your heart to do, if you want to see for yourself, which I think everybody should. When people are like, I don't want to go here. I'm like, did you go yourself? Go yourself. Go. Have that experience. Know it for yourself. Because I feel, particularly for Black women, and I think other women of color, we get told a lot what we can do, what we should aspire to, who we should be, where we should go. Don't go there. And I'm like, we're all grown. And we all want something different. And we all are different in different environments. People perceive and receive us differently in different environments. I want y'all to go on your own terms. I want you to do what you want to do. I want you to live the life that you want to live. And I'm going to tell you that you can. And I'm not going to tell you that you can from like some aspirational, toxic positivity kind of way. I'm going to tell you can. And you're going to work for it. Yeah. I know you don't want to hear work because in the United States, work is very exploitative. Exploitive English. Yeah, I get why you don't want to do that. But this is a different type of work. This is a cultivation of your life. And if I'm working for anything, don't give me all that. Look, if I'm working for something, I'm working for my own assets, period. That's me. But besides that, if I'm working for something, I want to work for the cultivation of this life, of this woman that I desire to become, an exploration of this woman that I didn't even know I could become, an exploration of things I didn't even know I liked, and have a space to explore and to play. This Black girl plays, and it's fun and silly, and lives a life that is, I would describe, sumptuous. And I want that for you too, okay? That's why I do these IG lives, and I'm bringing back some more podcast episodes. But it's also why I tell you guys to invest in yourselves. You're worth it. I'm not trying to just be like, oh, I'm telling you this and that. I've just shouted out all these people that did not pay me for no ads. They didn't pay me for a single ad, okay? This is me saying, in a world and an internet that is crazy, that's gonna try to tell you can move to Mexico with $5 in a backpack on a tourist visa, then y'all looking crazy that they stop you at the border like, your visa's for 7 days, I'll see you in a week. I'm talking to people who want to live a life well lived. Okay, it's a different vibe. It's a different thing. A different life, a soft life, a sumptuous life is not one that is handed to you necessarily. You can't walk into a very sumptuous situation, yes. But you have to get to know yourself. You have to cultivate what that life looks like, that community, that lifestyle. You got to get to know yourself. You got to take ownership of it. That's what it is. Y'all know I could sit here and talk to you forever, and I have. I've talked to y'all for 2 hours, and I said, no, I'm only gonna talk to you for 1 hour. I talked to you for 2 hours because I'm passionate about it, and I want y'all to win. And winning, to me, is y'all living a life well lived on your terms. On your terms. It don't have to make sense to me. If you want to live in a hammock on a beach in Costa Rica, okay, girl, but make sure that's your choice. Not something that you moved abroad, now you gotta figure it out, now you're struggling in survival mode. I don't want that for anybody. Regardless of where you want to move, regardless of how you want to move, you want to world school your kids, you want to put them in international schools, whatever you want to do, you want to have a home birth, you want to have birth in the technology and whatever, with a robot or something, I don't know. Like, to me, that's of no consequence because it's none of my business. What I care about is that you're being honest with yourself about what you really want. You are not like hedging. You're not like, well, I think I can have this, so I'll do that. Haven't we done that enough? Haven't you already lowered your expectations of what is possible for you? because of what society's told you could have, you could be, whatever. You've done it enough. And like I say, living abroad is a hassle. So, girl, if you're gonna go abroad, you better get what you want. It better be an environment in which you can cultivate what you want. Yes. That's what I want for you. That's why I say invest in yourself. That's why I say, ladies, you do not have to do it alone. There are so many resources out here for you. All the ladies I talked about during this live are excellent. I completely back them. They are not crazy or weirdos. Every dime you spend with them, you will get back 100%, probably times 5, because they're going to save you heartache. They're going to get you where you want to go faster. They're going to negotiate. These are the ladies you want to talk to. And then when I talked about me and my course, hey, if you want to have this kind of conversation, if you're like, I like that girl Christine, I like her. Well, that's the only way you're going to talk to me. Just being real. Because I'm being real. I'm a business owner, but also I am living a life well lived, which doesn't mean that I'm always available to everyone. Even though I love y'all so much, it doesn't mean that I'm always available. I know, right? That's part of my life well lived, is to do what I like to do and to do it how I like to do it. And for me, if you want to chat with me exclusively about, your move abroad journey, you got to join the course. The course opens up in August. You want to make sure you're on the email list, because I'm going to let y'all know I have a very special offer for everyone who purchases the day the course opens to be sold, which will actually be before August. It'll actually, there's a very special offer for people who purchase the day of. Not the next day, not the last day. So just be open to that. That's the only way to really chat with me now. And then, of course, if you're like, hey, girl, I really want to know about this build a business abroad. Oh, yeah, because that's my jam. That is what I'm known for. That is my thing. I'm good at it. I'm just gonna say, okay, I'm good at it. Okay, this is my thing. I know what I'm talking about. I got results. I got clients. They're excellent. They're doing amazing things. I'm so proud. But I want to help if that resonates with you, and you're like, I want to build a business to go abroad, not only to support myself, but to create an asset. That's my thing. Assets. Yes. As an investment tool. That funds your retirement. That funds other things for your life. Maybe it's a legacy vehicle. Maybe you're going to sell it eventually. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. If that's on your vibe, then get at me. And I'm going to open that up in August. And guess what? That's going to be the last cohort of 2022. Don't worry, because I'm going to repeat this in the episode that's going to drop tomorrow. And then on Monday. I'm going to repeat this in the podcast so y'all will know. There won't be any surprises. But for me, that's what's going to be for this year. And then I'll open it up again next year, I guess. Okay, all right, guys. It's been really wonderful chatting with you. I think y'all are so great. Thank you so much for riding with me. I appreciate your love and your patience. And my audience is the best audience also. I'm just going to say that as well. My audience is the best audience in the world. And I appreciate your love and support. And y'all send me nice notes. Like, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? And I'm like, yes, thank you so much. Anyway, as I always say, you know what? It's not about moving abroad. And for sure, it ain't just being abroad and unhappy or miserable or whatever. It's about thriving abroad. So go abroad and work and cultivate a life well lived. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye. Have a nice weekend.